This data about the RNDR token is unbelievable, and I promise you haven't yet seen this. This is the number of holders that hold at least 100,000 RNDR tokens. So with RNDR currently at roughly $2, that's $200,000 worth of the token. And this is constantly increasing, roughly at 240 wallets right now. The number of holders that hold 10,000 tokens, so 20,000 US, is going up even more steeply. So for the whales, the number roughly 3x'd, for the semi-whales it roughly 4x'd, and for the number of holders that hold $2,000 worth of the token, this went pretty much parabolic, more than a 10x, from 500 roughly to 6,200. And here we've got all the holders that have some kind of play money in it, at least $20, from 600 to 23,500 roughly. Real steep growth in retail adoption. The whales aren't growing that quickly right now, but it's really a retail driven rally. And so this is healthy, right? We want rallies to be driven by retail because then they're unlikely to go down. They're unlikely to collapse as quickly. If it's all just one single whale that pushes up the price, that whale might decide to sell, but it takes way more time for all of those retail micro wallets to actually sell. Now, this is all driven by big data, by AI, by the hype around ChatGPT and Midjourney, the RNDR token being a project that helps decentralizing rendering power. And Midjourney, of course, does use quite a lot of rendering power. And so what we can do in this example, when we don't just have the whales buying, but retail accelerating this trend, we can try to time this. We can try to time this with moving averages, something I do very often on this channel, a strategy that I have tried to refine all kinds of assets. And for the RNDR token, the best moving average is the 45-day simple moving average historically. So I've taken the data of the RNDR token since June of 2020 all the way to today, and I've simulated buying and selling for different daily moving average durations. So from just one day, looking at yesterday's price basically, all the way to 200 days. We're simulating using $1,000 worth of capital, and we've got 0.2% exchange fee. And we are betting both on rising prices when the price is above the moving average, as well as falling prices when the price is below the moving average. So the idea being, you want to be betting on a RNDR price continuing to go down when it is below the moving average. So you're going with the trend. Whenever the price goes above the moving average, you want to be betting on rising prices. Basically trying to determine the trend as good as possible, using whatever duration works the best. And what we see over here is an overview of the result of all of those moving averages. So from yesterday's price all the way to 200 day. So the duration in days of those moving averages is here at the bottom. So 200 backtests. And on the y-axis, we've got the annualized performance over the testing period. So the best annualized performance came from the 45 day. This is then how it looks like on a chart. So in white, the RNDR token, and in turquoise, the back-tested return. So if you had, as said, $1,000 worth of the RNDR token, you'd now be at 17K. Had you just bought and held RNDR, you would be at 200K had you traded according to that moving average. And so since this worked pretty well in the past, let's use this again in the future. And currently the RNDR token is bullish, and it might turn bearish once we fall under roughly $1.34. Now there are failed signals, right? No system is perfect. We have seen our fake outs here, but we're simply just taking an approach that historically worked well. And for a lot of cryptocurrencies, the performance is actually pretty consistent over time. So the kind of duration that works, say for Bitcoin in the first 3 to 4 years, also tended to work pretty well for the next 4 years thereafter, etc. So the duration doesn't really change because the volatility of the assets does not fundamentally change. Now this is all positive. More and more retail is buying into this. And we've also established the potential risk. The potential risk being roughly 32% or so. Now what's the potential return? One way to look at this is to try to find patterns relative to Ethereum. Like Ethereum, as the denominator rather than Bitcoin, because the kind of capital that's competing with the render token is something that's also actively traded. Bitcoin is very often simply just bought and held for many, many years, but for Ethereum, people tend to move in and out of it. They tend to use it as a vehicle to get in and out of altcoins. So very often we see relatively consistent trading ranges of altcoins relative to ETH. So look at this, right? This is the US dollar chart, and we don't really see clearly a bottom. We don't really clearly see supports anywhere. Once you look at this relative to ETH, you can clearly see how we have tested this kind of bottom several times. You can also see over here how we've had a relatively nice support. So what could be a potential resistance? Well, we've bounced off that resistance once here. Then of course, in February of this year over here. So in relative performance to ETH, not in US dollars, definitely worth watching if there will be a potential turnaround at roughly 38%. So the risk versus reward doesn't look that great anymore. But on the other hand, the current rally seems to be pretty solid. The inflation also doesn't seem to be too high. Look at this, the circulating supply is already at 68%. This is comparatively high for an altcoin of this size, for an altcoin at market rank 74. So it's the 74th largest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap. Now with any altcoin, it's very important to time this right. You shouldn't just have a random portfolio of 10 or 20 altcoins. You really want to be betting on these waves. And I made a separate video just on that. A largely diversified portfolio of altcoins is likely going to underperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. I will link this video directly afterwards, so feel free to check that out. Feel also free to join our Telegram and our Discord at the bottom left. And if you want to learn more about the best backtested moving averages, there's also the premium membership. I've backtested a lot of different altcoins, and there's even a script that you can copy paste into TradingView to show you the best moving average for those listed alts. If you've got a specific alt that you want to get backtested, feel free to simply just ask this in the premium Telegram channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video over here. Bye bye.